What's up, lovers of whiskey and watchers of YouTube? I am the Malt activist, and in this video I'm going to tell you about 5 Japanese whiskeys which I think are overrated, overpriced, and not worth your time and money. And instead, I'm going to let you in on a big secret. 5 Scottish alternatives that are delectable and will save you a ton of gold doubloons. Basically what I'm saying is stop buying Japanese merch. Oh shit. Before we begin, I just want to give a big shout out to my first time viewers. Thank you for clicking through to that thumbnail. If whiskey is your thing and rants and raves and saving money is your lifelong pursuit, then this channel is the one for you. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, all of the above, none of the above. I'm just glad that you're here. To my returning viewers, thank you, as I always say, for keeping your standards so low. You guys are the wind beneath my wings. Now, let's get on with it. Now, before I get into this video, I just want to make something very clear, right? The whiskeys that I'm about to talk to you about are not necessarily bad whiskeys. Please don't get me wrong, not bad whiskeys. However, are they overrated? Yeah. Are they overpriced? Yeah. And do they hold a candle to what they were 10, 12, 15 years ago? No. And that is my problem, right? A little bit of context. I want to say maybe 10, 12, 13 years ago, a certain gentleman by the name of Jim Murray, the self-proclaimed Jesus Christ of whiskey. I mean, why else would he release a book called The Whiskey Bible? Or he thinks he's whiskey god. I don't know, whatever it is. He, for some reason, proclaimed one year, I believe it was 2015, that the Yamazaki 2013 Sherry Cask was his whiskey of the year. Now, that's fine. You can give any accolade to any whiskey that you want. You're an independent writer. You have your own opinions. You're absolutely fine. By the way, this guy also crowned his #1 whiskey one year as the Crown Royal Rye, a Canadian rye whiskey. Crown Royal. So listen, man, it's his opinion, and like I said, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. So yes, he did that. He said Yamazaki 2013 Sherry Cask, best whiskey in the world, and then something phenomenal happened. And when I say phenomenal, I mean bad phenomenal. People went nuts. People started buying every single thing that was Japanese. They sucked the Japanese distilleries dry. They bought all the Yamazakis. They bought all the Hakushus. They bought all the Miyagikyus. They bought all the Yoichis. They bought all the Nikas. They bought everything. And distributors around the world went, what the hell just happened? Where the hell is all of our Japanese stock? So they started calling the distilleries in Japan. They're like, yo, we need some more whiskey. And the Japanese are like, bro, no, we don't have any more whiskey. We're done. They're like, no, you have to send us whiskey. And they're like, yeah, but we can't even put age statements on our whiskeys because, you know, we have whiskeys that are 3 years old, 5 years old, whatever. And the distributors and everybody else went, yeah, that's perfect. Nobody cares. Just make sure you get rid of the age statement. Put a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 9-year-old, whatever it is that you want in that non-age statement blend. And hey, you can now sell it at 3 times the price. And every chartered accountant in that industry went, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. And that's essentially what happened. Right? Maybe not exactly like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not that far from the truth. But yes, dwindling stocks, NAS whiskeys, trying to meet this artificially inflated demand for Japanese whiskey, and what happens? You start getting substandard products. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. When I started drinking whiskey back in the day, Japanese whiskeys were affordable. They had a very different flavor profile. That nuance was very different, and they were gorgeously constructed. As most Japanese things are, there's a certain pride and elegance to the way Japanese make things, and whiskey was no exception. The old Yamazaki 18s, the Hakushi 12s and the 18s, they were just gorgeous whiskeys. The Miyagikyu 15, the Yoichi 20, what a whiskey, right? And then once they got rid of all these stocks, they didn't know what to do. They started making this NAS bullshit, and now here we are with overpriced, overrated whiskeys that people are still paying top dollar for just because it has sexy kanji symbols on the packaging. What are you gonna do, man? What are you gonna do? So this video is now dedicated to 5 whiskeys, 5 Japanese whiskeys, which I think are overpriced and overrated, and what you can get instead of them. Some really delectable Scottish replacements or alternatives. You know what I mean. Okay, let's start off slow and strong. I'm talking about the Hibiki Harmony. Now, the Hibiki Harmony came into being because everyone ran out of the Hibiki 12 and the 17 and the 21, and I think there's a 25 as well. I have a 17 sitting on my shelf, which, by the way, damn good dram. If I can buy it for $100 or less, which is what I used to do back in the day. But now, Jesus Christ, now what do I get? I get a NAS whiskey in arguably a fantastic looking decanter. I gotta give them the packaging kudos, because that Hibiki Harmony packaging is absolutely stunning. However, is it worth the price? No, it's not worth the price. Okay, let's do a side-by-side. Oh, wait, before we do that, let me tell you what my alternative to the Hibiki Harmony is, right? I think, and this might be slightly contentious, but I stand behind my conviction, I stand behind my choices. I think a good alternative to the Hibiki Harmony is the Chivas Regal 15. That's right. Now let's do a side-by-side comparison, okay? Now, the Hibiki Harmony on the left is bottled at 43%, the Chivas Regal at 40%. Okay, I get it. Slightly less ABV on the Chivas Regal, but blended whiskey, and I think the drinking experience from a strength perspective, you really can't tell, frankly. The Harmony is a non-age statement blend. The Chivas Regal is a guaranteed 15-year-old whiskey. That's right, it has an age statement, so definitely more points to the Chivas Regal for that. But the biggest difference that I see here is that the Hibiki Harmony is coming in at 83 pounds. 83 pounds versus the rather reasonable 50 pounds for the Chivas Regal. So you save 33 pounds on what I consider to be a better drinking experience. That's right. Now, why do I think that the Chivas Regal is better? Well, number one, it is less than half the cost, more or less, right? My math isn't that great, but you know what I mean. Less than half the cost. And I think from a drinking experience, it has a better mouthfeel. The flavors are more pronounced. The profile is a lot more nuanced than the Hibiki Harmony, which I find to be kind of one-dimensional, maybe even a little flat. You know, there are palates who might like that, but you know, it's not for me. So I think just on the price alone, the Chivas Regal definitely better drinking experience. Like I said, it's an age statement, a 15-year-old versus non-age statement, and the Chivas Regal 15 in this case is a cognac finish. That's right, which to me adds like this depth and fruitness, which, by the way, quite rare in blends at this particular price point. So the Hibiki Harmony out the window. For me, it's the Chivas Regal 15, which I would gladly take out 50 pounds for a much better drinking experience. What do you think? Our next whiskey is the Yamazaki 12. Yes. Now, remember back in the day when we used to buy Yamazaki 12s for 50 pounds, 40 pounds. It was a good drinking experience. But now you can't do that. First of all, very thin on the ground, right? You know, you'll be lucky to get your hands on it because of aforementioned reasons, where every distillery was sucked dry by maniacs who thought nothing better than to go and buy all the Japanese whiskey out there. So very thin on the ground. I believe they've come out with this new batches. So I hope there's enough distribution. However, that hasn't affected the pricing. Yeah, the pricing hasn't gone down. No. So what do I think is a good alternative to the Yamazaki 12? It is the GlenDronach 12-year-old. That's right. To me, I think that is a very, very good substitute for the Yamazaki 12. Okay, let's put it up on screen, right? So what do we have? For the Yamazaki 12, we're looking at 43% ABV, also 43% ABV with the GlenDronach 12, so exactly the same. They're both age statements at 12 years old, exactly the same. But what really does it for me is this really lopsided pricing. The Yamazaki 12, the cheapest price I could find anywhere was 140 pounds. That's right, 140 pounds. And compared to the GlenDronach 12, which you can get for a princely sum of 53 pounds. That's right. Now these prices are median prices. I've been, doing my research, looking at UK online retailers and gathering these prices. So 140 pounds versus just 53 pounds for the GlenDronach, and to me that just tips the scales in favor of the GlenDronach by a very, very huge margin. And why does the GlenDronach win, in my opinion? Well, of course, it's the price. You saving 87 pounds and you still get an 8-statement single malt whiskey, which I think is a damn good steal. From a flavor profile, the GlenDronach 12, to me, a great sherry bomb. It's a mix of Oloroso and PX, with its rich dried fruits and spices. Somewhat of a similar profile to the Yamazaki 12, but a lot more robust, a lot more explosive flavors. And finally, I feel it has craft credentials. GlenDronach is known, it has this heritage, right? We know it's natural color, non-chill filtered, and maybe there's some level of traditional whiskey making that the GlenDronach brings to the table. But generally, if I look at it, if I compare apples to oranges, or apples to apples, or whatever you want to call it, or barley to barley, for me, the price point is the major sticking point for me. It doesn't work. I'm not paying 140 pounds for a 12-year-old whiskey, which is kind of okay. I'd rather buy 3 GlenDronach 12s for that price, right? So for those reasons alone, I think the GlenDronach 12 head and shoulders above the Yamazaki 12 in terms of overall drinking experience, and of course, that price. Can't beat it. Just can't beat it. The third whiskey is, of course, Nikka from the Barrel. That's right. Now, before I even talk to you about Nikka from the Barrel, there's this huge controversy about Nikka from the Barrel that it had about 95% Highland whiskies in it from Scotland, but they were packaging them as Japanese whiskies. Now, this was a big scandal for whiskey drinkers like myself. I don't know if they've resolved it, if the new Nikka from the Barrel is 100% Japanese. I'm not 100% sure. If you know more than me, which I'm sure you do, let me know in the comments. But instead of the Nikka from the Barrel, I would go for an interesting vatted malt from Douglas Lang called the Scallywag Cask Strength. That's right. Now let's put them up side by side and see what the comparison looks like, right? So Nikka from the Barrel bottled at 51.4% ABV. The Scallywag at 54.1% ABV. So definitely 3 percentage points up there. They're both non-8 statement whiskeys. And from a pricing perspective, now mind you, the Nikka from the Barrel comes in at about it comes in a 50 cl bottle, right? And that 50 cl bottle is about 46 pounds roughly, or 48 pounds roughly. But we're comparing the pricing to a 70 cl bottle, right? So from a pricing perspective, if I was to sort of pro rata the pricing based on price per liquid, it would be 65 pounds that you pay for Nikka from the Barrel, and just 50 pounds for the Scallywag Cask Strength. Now, there's a lot of Scallywag cask strengths out there. I've put up on the screen the edition number 2, if I'm not mistaken, and it's definitely available on some online retailers, but there's a host of other Scallywag whiskeys at cask strength that you can sink your teeth into. Now, why do I prefer the Scallywag? Well, definitely for the ABV, you're getting more. You're getting a 70 cl bottle versus a 50 cl bottle. I prefer the flavor complexity of the Scallywag. I think it brings a more sort of rich sherry spice and chocolate because of its Speyside DNA. And I think it has a little more depth when compared to Nikka's blended profile. And for me, the biggest thing I think is transparency, because I genuinely don't know what is inside the Nikka from the Barrel. Are they Scottish whiskies? Are they Japanese whiskies? I don't know what it is. And for that reason alone, I think, a better purchase for me would be the Scallywag Cask Strength compared to Nikka from the Barrel. At least I know what I'm getting into. At least I know what I'm drinking, right? I'm drinking cool, pure Speyside single malt whiskeys vatted together. So Scallywag, cask strength. Our fourth whiskey is the Hawkshoe Distillers Reserve. Now this is what happened to the poor Hawkshoe distillery, where they ran out of age statements and they had to resort to Distillers Reserve. I hate that term, Distillers Reserve. It does not mean anything. It just means we don't know what to put on this label, so we'll call it Distillers Reserve. So the Hawkshoe Distillers Reserve, definitely I'm not buying. Instead, I'm going to get my hands on the Tobermory 12. Yes, Tobermory 12. Let's put it up on the screen. What do I see here? I see 43% for the Hawkshoe Distillers Reserve. A bit weak in my opinion, compared to the 46.3% ABV that the Tobermory 12 brings. So well done, Burn Stewart. The Hawkshoe is non-age statement. I'm getting a 12-year age statement from the Tobermory. The Hawkshoe is 60 pounds and the Tobermory is 42 pounds. So an 18-pound saving, if you ask me, which really does it for me. Why do I think the Tobermory is better? Well, definitely the strength. And I think the higher strength gives it a better structure, nice texture, the mouthfeel is nice. So overall, I think the high strength does better. Even from a flavor profile, the Tobermory 12, it's earthy, it's coastal, it's herbaceous, and it has this natural complexity, which I really, really love. The Hawkshoe, compared to it, I think it's a bit too light. The profile is a bit too thin. And so for me, the Tobermory, definitely a better mouthfeel and drinking experience. And ultimately, I think, you know, overall value and integrity, right? The Tobermory is an age statement whiskey. It's natural colored, it's non-chill filtered, and you get it for 42 pounds, which I think is a major win for our Scottish product over here. So yeah, definitely, I think this one's a no-brainer. The Hawkshoe Distillers Reserve really doesn't do much for me, coming in at such a high price when I can easily get the Tobermory 12 for what, 30% less, and better pedigree, better drinking experience. I mean, this one's a no-brainer. And finally, the Miyagikyu. By the way, huge fan of the Miyagikyu series. Back in the day when they had the 12, they had the 15, the 10, 12, 15, the 20, man, those were like solid, beautiful whiskeys, but they've also now been reduced to non-age statement fare, which I think is rather sad. So instead of the Miyagikyu NAS, it's just called the Miyagikyu single malt, the NAS version, I'm going to pit it against another NAS version whiskey, which I really love, is the Ardnamurchan Madeira cask finish, which I recently reviewed on my channel a month or so ago. And it is an absolute stunner when you compare it to the Miyagikyu NAS. Let's put them up on the screen and see what the differences are. So the Miyagikyu comes in at 45%, whereas the Ardnamurchan comes in at a beautiful 52%. They are, yes, both non-age statement whiskeys. Kind of similarly priced. The Miyagikyu comes in at 75 pounds and the Ardnamurchan at 65 pounds. So not a huge difference in price over there, but why do I like it better? Well, definitely I believe the extra 7% ABV I think delivers a better balance to me. I think it's richer, it's more layered than the Miyagikyu's 45%. The overall flavor profile, I love the Madeira cask. It adds sort of dry fruit, spice, and a waxy texture to it, and I think it sort of elevates the whole maritime malt without overwhelming it. So wonderfully balanced, definitely in my opinion. And finally, again, you know, craft and clarity is a huge thing for me. Ardnamurchan, they openly share their recipe, their mash bill, their distillation process, their maturation details. And when you look at Japanese whiskeys, there's a certain opacity that surrounds the making of Japanese whiskeys. And I think for those reasons, I would 100% pick the Ardnamurchan Madeira cask finish over the Miyagikyu non-age statement whiskey. Yeah, definitely a much better drinking experience. So there you have it, man. 5 overpriced, overrated Japanese whiskeys and their rather delectable Scottish alternatives. Now, I know, look, I cannot make an absolute perfect comparison in terms of the flavor profile, in terms of the maturation, because no two whiskeys are exactly the same. You know, let alone whiskeys made in Japan versus whiskeys made in Scotland. What I'm essentially trying to do is trying to gauge an overall drinking experience, kind of keep it similar in terms of the offering, whether it's age, whether it's some type of maturation, but we'll never ever get it absolutely spot on, right? I think, and again, when I use the word drinking experience, it's a rather vague term, it's a very opinionated term, but like I said, if you follow this channel and you like what I drink, then you're going to like my suggestions, you know? If you hate what I drink, then, well, why are you even here? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so it will never ever match perfectly aligned, but what we can do is try and find alternatives that are similar, that are at least definitely cheaper, in my opinion. So let's do a quick roundup of how much money we saved. Okay, so let's do this. Now for the Hibiki Harmony, we spent 83 pounds, and for the Chivas Regal, we spent 50 pounds. There's a 33 pound saving there. For the Yamazaki 12, we spent 140 pounds. For the Glendronach 12, we spent 53 pounds, which is a massive saving of 87 pounds. For Nika from the Barrel, we spent 65 pounds, and for the Scallywag Cask Strength, we spent 50 pounds. We saved 15 pounds there. For the Hakushu Distiller Reserve, we spent 60 pounds. For the Tobamori 12, we spent 42 pounds. And finally, for the Miyagikyu, we spent 75 pounds, and for the Ardnamurchan, we spent 65 pounds, saving us a grand total of 10 pounds for that whiskey, which means our total savings across this basket of whiskeys is 163 pounds. That's right, we managed to save 163 pounds. You know what you can do with 163 pounds? You can buy 4 more Tobamori 12s, right? Or you can buy 2 Ardnamurchan Madeira cask finishes with some change left over. That was my puppy shaking himself. But yeah, that's a lot of savings, man. That's a lot of savings. So next time you're out there and you get enamored by these really cool kanji looking packaging and presentations, have a look, check the ABVs, check the pricing, go somewhere else in the store, look for an age statement, right? Or look for some sort of pedigree, and look for the ABV, and then do a comparison, right? So think smart, think smart. Don't buy the label, buy the whiskey. That's what I always say. Don't buy the label, buy the whiskey. Don't buy the hype, buy the whiskey. You know, Japanese whiskeys, I wish they would come back in their full force, in their full form that they were once, where they blew everybody out of the water. I hope they're able to do that, but for now, I don't think they're doing much. At least these 5 whiskeys don't really do it for me. And the ones that do, the ones that come with age statement, they're so expensive. I can't even dream about buying them, you know. So it is what it is. At least I can buy good Scottish whiskeys, you know, instead. So there you have it, man. I hope this video helped. I hope when you go out there looking for Japanese whiskeys, you'll keep this video in mind and maybe try and buy smart whiskeys. Are whiskeys smart or are we smart? I don't know. I don't know the difference. Anyway, and like I said, I'm just gonna leave you with this. My videos, they're just my opinions, right? And at the best of times, I'm full of shit. So don't take me too seriously. If you like this video, like and share and subscribe and do everything. That'll be really highly appreciated. If you don't like this video, don't tell anybody about it. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna sign off. I've been rambling on for too much. I'll see you next time. I'm the Malt Activist. Peace!